Our next session will shed light into the integration of environmental, societal, and governance criteria into modern investment strategies, highlighting Fintech's pivotal role in promoting sustainable practices. We'll explore collaborative initiatives between ESG frameworks and Fintech innovations, uncovering trends and opportunities in sustainable finance that pave the way for a greener, more responsible financial ecosystem. To present Nurturing a Sustainable Finance Future, the role of ESG investments and innovative fintechs, we would like to call on stage Mr. Rahul Prithiani, Global Head and Senior Director, Energy, Commodities and Sustainability Consulting CRISIL, and Mr. Narayan, Co-Founder and Chief Growth Officer, GovEva. Let's have a huge round of applause for them, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, folks. Thanks for coming over. And I believe we are kind of running behind schedule, so we'll try and keep it short and sweet. So in a world that's experiencing extreme weather events thanks to climate change, changing expectations from the next generation of customers, and geopolitical issues which are causing major disruptions in supply chain, businesses are facing new risks that they had never factored in before. According to the World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report, ESG risks are among the top risks faced by enterprises globally. Therefore, now there is a greater focus on factoring ESG criteria into not just investment decisions, but business strategy itself. This means increasingly there's more consideration given to long-term impact of such decisions and for long-term, with the aim for long-term value creation. That said, I would like to begin by asking Rahul, given your role at CRISIL, you were exposed to these issues at a global level and have a really broad perspective, international perspective on the subject. Can you give us a sense of what is happening at a global level, and then probably come down to what your sense is at India?
Sure. Good evening and thanks. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Pleasure interacting with all of you. As you rightly mentioned, I think clearly, we are seeing ESG sustainability coming at front and center of the discourse in various segments over the last few years, especially post-COVID. And the trends that we see globally clearly highlight to an increasing move towards decarbonization, greater social consciousness, and what we are seeing that getting manifested in various forms in terms of the various governments having their own NDC targets. There is a clear decarbonization plan globally. Various countries have kind of put forth. There are net zero targets that we are seeing some of the larger corporates kind of coming up with. So there is a clear move towards this decarbonization wave. And increasingly, we are seeing newer opportunities from a business standpoint emerging, be it in terms of renewables that you've all seen, biofuels, batteries, EV ecosystem, charging stations, etc. And increasingly, we are also seeing opportunities with respect to the waste as well as the recycling space. Now, all those are kind of, seeing increasingly demand for credit and also infusion of technology, which becomes a very critical element. And the governments do understand that, it's not necessarily easy to channelize funding towards these areas. Increasingly, they are giving nudge to the financial community, which is both from a credit point of view as well as equity point of view, to kind of fund some of these initiatives, and also through their own funding encourage investment in technology, probably provide viability gap funding, which in turn is leading to greater disclosures in this area, of sustainability, ESG, greater reporting with respect to metrics which are necessary. And increasingly, you've seen both in US, Europe, also in Southeast Asia, and also some of the emerging countries, we are seeing more and more activity towards better reporting on sustainability parameters. In India, we have seen, introduction of BRSR. We went through the first cycle for the top 1,000 companies, and increasingly that is getting more and more stringent. So clearly, from an overall environment point of view, I think it's becoming more and more critical to kind of see reporting in these areas. And also it is leading to more and more new opportunities in the financial services space. There are new segments and sectors for lending. And at the same time, from a capital markets point of view, there are newer instruments such as green bonds, green deposits, which are also coming to the fore. So the marketplace is widening, and one has to start getting more and more ready to address the needs that are there in this space.
Thank you. Interesting. So from your perspective, you touched on a lot of things, and one of the key takeaways is that these should not be seen purely as risk, but also as an opportunity. So from that perspective, what should stakeholders be aware of, and how do you especially help clients navigate through these, to discover these opportunities?
So I think, again, depending on the nature and the space that you're present in, be it a corporate or the financial services entity, I think there are a whole host of new areas which are available for, new opportunities that one can leverage. First, I'll touch upon the financial services itself. I think, again, with RBI coming up with the green deposit policy, there is SEBI coming out with guidelines on green bonds, as well as, sustainability-linked bonds being pretty active in the global markets, and some of the corporates, as well as the financial sector entities accessing those markets. So increasingly, it is providing a new avenue for people to kind of, plan their strategy. There are new segments such as renewables, as well as, things like green hydrogen, carbon capture, some of those newer emerging segments where you need to kind of, it provides you a good opportunity from a forward-looking perspective, where one can, position the entire framework for lending as well as credit going forward in that area. Increasingly, we are also seeing opportunities to provide, from a fintech perspective, for instance, providing data, which is a very important fuel for this entire assessment, benchmarking, validation with respect to the risk that potentially some of the lending community is carrying. To capture some of these inputs, you will need a backbone of technology. That is where there are opportunity for a lot of technology providers. Similarly, on the larger front, if you look at even the corporates as well as the financial sector, there's a whole host of information that needs to be reported from a reporting perspective on the supply chain, etc., going forward. So that again will require a lot of data capture, technology integration, dashboarding, also having external data for validation, which will need to come in. So there are a whole host of factors which will kind of drive the change going forward. And when we are working with clients, I think we are supporting them in their entire journey, depending on maturity, right from early stage, setting up a plan in terms of where they stand in terms of their own journey with respect to sustainability. What are the opportunities on the horizon? What should be the strategy and the business roadmap to achieve that? What are the areas in which they can kind of plan their strategy with respect to funding as well as returns on account of some of these strategies as they play out in the market, and at the same time supporting them in their reporting journey as well as integration of some of these sustainability factors in the overall credit as well as the investment process.
Thanks. Very comprehensively, you've touched upon what's required from a basic foundational aspect for ESG compliance and reporting, and also the potential technological innovations that one can see in this field to, how do you address the challenge of greenwashing, which is, today very prevalent, and ensure genuine ESG compliance as opposed to tick the box or greenwashing?
So I think it's a very tricky one, and I think globally everybody's been grappling with this. And to my mind, I think in many cases it has also been the case where there's not enough internal knowledge also in terms of what is green, not green. So taxonomies have been fluid and they've been evolving over the years. So now we are increasingly seeing more and more alignment of taxonomies globally and even domestically, I think taxonomy evolving. So that to some extent helps. But over and above, beyond that, there is a large role of internal capacity building within organizations, be it in the financial sector side as well as the corporates, in terms of their understanding of, what does this mean? What are the kind of things that they need to take care of? Understanding the taxonomy of what is green, what is not green, clear definitions, though there will be some fluidity on the margin, but as you see more and more clarity and structures coming out, and also with BRSR and other reporting requirements that are going up, there'll be more structured data output, which the whole world can look at. There would be sectoral benchmarks that will start emerging. And in that context, you will have more and more access to data. And even on the margin where greenwashing is taking place, I think it'll become more easier for people to figure out, or the analyst community to figure out, what is happening. So to that extent, I think it'll become more and more clear if we have better quality of data coming through, better understanding of taxonomy, and stronger internal capacity building.
Yeah. So again, very comprehensive, and you brought out a very pertinent point in terms of the lack of skill sets today. And the fact is that in terms of the climate action, we are running behind time, and corporates have been called upon to take some action. And because of the lack of understanding and the lack of available skill sets, we are a little behind. So any final thoughts on how you at CRISIL are collaborating with customers to help them through this journey and, ensure a complete ESG integration?
Nara, I think that's a very large question and very large area, and it's a multi-year journey probably that corporates need to embark on. So as I said, how typically one looks at this entire space is one looks at where the company is today in terms of the segment that it is playing in, what are the kind of benchmarks that you are seeing with respect to the competitors in this space, what are some of the best practices that are in this place, and what are the kind of opportunities that the company may, encash upon going forward in some of these areas. So the step one is clearly, identifying some of these gaps and then building a specific roadmap with respect to both internal as well as external environment, as well as the opportunities, and kind of, building a plan for funding around some of those opportunities and some of the best avenues to fund, and also identifying some of the skill sets that are there, that are needed to kind of, succeed as one moves in that journey. Of course, here and now, number one is compliance. I think with the BRSR reporting kind of coming through and RBI also having certain compliances with respect to green deposits, etc., you have to move on those very clearly. So clearly, that is something that most corporates are addressing. Also building a technology backbone to capture information, gather benchmarks, both internal as well as external in areas such as climate risk, etc. There again, you have a role of ML, AI, which also kind of, gets integrated and providing a holistic solution, identifying some risk areas, and also slowly in the financial sector, for instance, building some of that in the overall risk as well as the pricing domain, so that it is appropriately kind of factored in and avoids any kind of, specific risk, concentration risk, and at the same time de-risk and protects the profitability going forward. So some of those elements one is trying to kind of, integrate. And of course, along the way, there are these opportunities in the financial space with respect to fundraise, building a sustainable finance framework, supporting with respect to green bonds, second party opinions. That is another area that, we are helping our clients out.
Thank you. So obviously, there's a lot left to do. It's a very challenging road ahead, but also exciting. And I believe that, this is something that everybody in the world is seized of today, simply because if we don't take action today, there's going to be devastating circumstances. uh, at- it is challenging, but turning risk into opportunities and putting the frameworks in place, like you said, we should hopefully get us there in even time. So thanks for your thoughts. And
Absolutely. Thank you, and pleasure interacting. Thank you.